All right, hey everyone, Jeff here at StopThePirates.blogspot.com. Monday, 3/23/2020. In Southern California, boy, they did not like it that the slaves were out on the beaches over the weekend playing basketball and riding their bikes and walking their dogs. They're very upset. They're all the media channels. And you know what's interesting? I don't have cable TV, but there's Channel 2 News, Channel 4 News, Channel 5 News, Channel 7 News, Channel 9 News, Channel 11 News, and I think Channel 13, maybe there's 13 News, right? So that's seven news stations, and they're all owned by the same company. Have you seen the video where they're all kind of saying, hey, there's too much information on social media that's not real news? But every station across the country, whether it's CBS, NBC, Fox, whatever, they're all on the same message. They're all putting out the same propaganda. So it's like it's not independent media. It's all it's state-run media. It's what it is. They're given their marching orders by whoever, probably the Central Intelligence Agency, and they all have to sign like non-disclosure agreements and hidden, like, here, we're letting you in on the security. You get a little security clearance probably and all this shit. That's why they all do it. And it's funny because here in LA, each channel has their own ethnic tilt. They all speak English. I mean, of course, there's a Spanish channel too, which I'm sure is, I don't speak Spanish, but I'm sure it's they're on the same script. So yeah. But there's like Asians on one channel, or an Asian guy and a white guy, or a black guy, and it's like everybody's covered. I mean, so nobody feels left out. I don't know if there's any Muslims. I don't think so. But yeah, I think there is. But they're all the Americanized type of Muslims, not real ethnic Muslims. What was my point? Yeah, so I was just, perusing what they're talking about, and they are really chastising the slaves. Don't be so selfish. Your grandma, you could kill her. These are our most cherished citizens, and you have to give up your whole livelihood, and you have to sit in your house so they can live. I mean, I've never heard a bigger bunch of bullshit in my whole life. Give me a break, man. Nobody has it. Nobody's getting sick, and they just come out with these numbers and all of these to scare you. It's just a fear, man. And these celebrities now all of a sudden have it. Tom Hanks. I mean, was that like a month ago? I mean, somehow this mysterious virus found Tom Hanks, went from China to Australia in the outback somewhere. Yeah, I got it. We're fine. It's great. We're just and people are like that. They want to go get tested. They want to find out if they have it. They can put it out on their social media. I have it. So what's going on here? I mean, this is just crazy. Why do they want you so badly in your house and not out talking to people? Because it's a complete overthrow of the country, and now we're now moving into full-blown communism. I expect China to invade our western shores here any minute, because they're under international maritime Admiralty law. They would have the right to do that if the U.S. defaulted on its loans to them. And let's talk about maritime Admiralty law for a minute. I was perusing this article on StopThePirates.blogspot.com. It's an old one. Why the United States of America is a bankrupt corporation, and in fact, and law is technically a civilly dead entity without standing in law to sue or make complaint against anyone. A stone fact. Now you can check it out. Make real sure now. Anyway, United States Congressional Record, March 17th, 1993, volume number 33, page H1303, Speaker Senator James Traficant Jr., Ohio, addressing the House. Quote, Mr. Speaker, we are now here in Chapter 11. Members of the Congress are the official trustees presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in world history, the U.S. government. We are setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future. There are some who say it's a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. It's an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act, March 9, 1933, 48 Stat 1 Public Law 89-719, declared by President Roosevelt being bankrupt and insolvent. House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress Session, June 5, 1933, Joint Resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause dissolved the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of the United States government officers, and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. The receivers of the United States bankruptcy are the international bankers via the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. All United States offices, officials, and departments are now operating within a de facto status in name only under emergency war powers. With the constitutional Republican form of government now dissolved, the receivers of the bankruptcy have adopted a new form of government for the United States. This new form of government is known as a democracy, being an established socialist communist order under a new governor for America. If you didn't know it, who runs this country now is called Homeland Security. The president is just a puppet. This act was instituted and established by transferring and or placing the office of the Secretary of the Treasury to that of the Governor of the International Monetary Fund. Public Law 94-564, page 8, section House Resolution 13955 reads in part, the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury receives no compensation for representing the United States. Some quotes here. I'll leave a link to this article. It explains a dollar is a measure of weight defined by the Coinage Act of 1792 and of 1900, which is still in force today. A dollar specifies a certain quantity, 24.8 grains of gold, or 371.25 grains of silver. In Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, dollar, quote, the money unit employed by the United States of the value of 100 cents, or of any combination of coins totaling 100 cents. And a cent, a coin of the United States, the least in value of those now minted, is the 100th part of a dollar. Gold and silver were such powerful money during the founding of the United States of America, that the founding fathers declared that only gold or silver coins can be money in America. Since gold and silver coinage were heavy and inconvenient for a lot of transactions, they were stored in banks, and a claim check was issued as a money substitute. People traded their coupons as money or currency. Currency is not money, but a money substitute, and that's what we have today. Redeemable currency must promise to pay a dollar equivalent in gold or silver money. Federal Reserve notes make no such promises and are not money. A Federal Reserve note is a debt obligation of the federal United States government, not money. The federal United States government and the U.S. Congress were not and have never been authorized by Constitution for the United States of America to issue currency of any kind, but only lawful money, gold, silver, coin, which they still do. I mean, you can still get gold and silver coins, silver eagles and gold eagles, buffaloes. Let me read on here. It's essential that we comprehend the distinction between real money and paper money substitute. You cannot get rich accumulating money substitutes. You can only get deeper into debt. We, the people, no longer have any money. Most Americans have not been paid any money for a very long time, perhaps not in their entire life. Now, do you comprehend why you feel broke? Now, do you understand why you are bankrupt along with the rest of the country? Federal Reserve notes are unsigned checks written on closed checking accounts. Federal Reserve notes are an inflatable paper system designed to create debt through inflation, devaluation of currency, which is what they're doing right now massively. Trillions upon trillions. You know, a trillion is 1,000 billion. A billion is 1,000 million. It's crazy. It's like whenever there are an increase of the supply of a money substitute in the economy without the corresponding increase in the gold and silver backing, inflation occurs. Inflation is an invisible form of taxation that irresponsible governments inflict upon their citizens. The Federal Reserve Bank, who controls the supply and movement of Federal Reserve notes, has everybody fooled. They have access to an unlimited supply of Federal Reserve notes, paying for only the printing costs and of what they need. And now it's just a digital. Federal Reserve notes are nothing more than promissory notes for the U.S. Treasury securities, T-bills. They promise to pay a debt to the Federal Reserve Bank. And there's a fundamental difference between paying and discharging a debt. To pay a debt, you must pay with value or substance, i.e. gold, silver, barter, or a commodity. With Federal Reserve notes, you can only discharge a debt. You can't pay a debt with a debt currency system. That's a hard one to sink in after what we've been indoctrinated into. But a United States dollar, a Federal Reserve note, is evidence of a debt. It's a note. So we're just exchanging notes, and none of the bills ever get paid. That's why from House Joint Resolution 192, they did give you your remedy, but they hid it from everybody. And your remedy is there is no money to pay with anything anyway. So when you get a bill in the mail, all you have to do, because we're not a corporation, we're not a debt entity, we're the only thing living that breathes life into these corporations, is all you have to do is sign for it. And you have an account set up at one of the 12 Federal Reserve banks. Look at the back of your Social Security card, A through L, the account number. Look at the bottom of your check. If you still have a checking account, it doesn't route to Bank of America, I keep telling this, but it routes to one of the 12 Federal Reserve banks that houses your exemption account. And if you look at the signature line, you have to get out a magnifying glass and look at it. It'll say MP next to it, microprint. They're sneaky, and you have to get out a magnifying glass and look at it. It'll say authorized rep, authorized rep, authorized rep in the signature line. So you're the authorized representative of one of these Festa trust accounts, these exemption accounts, set up at one of the 12 Federal Reserve banks. There's no money to pay anything with anyway. Just sign for it. Do a accept it for value and send it to the paymaster, which is the Internal Revenue Service. Tell them to pay it. They're just keeping the books. It's just entries and debits and credits and ledger. There's no money. It's just all bullshit. The Federal Reserve System is based on canon law and the principles of sovereignty protected in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. In fact, the international bankers used a canon law trust as their model, adding stock and naming it a joint stock trust. The U.S. Congress has passed a law making it illegal for any legal person to duplicate a joint stock trust in 1873. The Federal Reserve Act was legislated post facto to 1870, although post facto laws are strictly forbidden by the Constitution. The Federal Reserve System is a sovereign power structure separate and distinct from the federal United States government. Federal Reserve is a maritime lender and or maritime insurance underwriter to the federal United States, operating exclusively under Admiralty maritime law. The lender and underwriter bears the risks, and the maritime law compelling specific performance and paying the interest or premiums are the same. Assets of the debtor can also be hypothecated to pledge, and that means to pledge something as a security without taking possession of it. As a security by the lender or underwriter, the Federal Reserve Act stipulated that the interest on the debt was to be paid in gold. There was no stipulation in the Federal Reserve Act ever paying the principal. Prior to 1913, most Americans owned clear allodial title to property, free and clear and any liens or mortgages until the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 hypothecated all property within the federal United States to the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, in which the trustees or the stockholders held legal title. The U.S. citizen, tenant, franchisee was registered as a beneficiary of the trust via his or her birth certificate. In 1933, the federal United States hypothecated all of the present and future properties, assets, and labor of their subjects, the 14th Amendment U.S. citizen, to the Federal Reserve System. In return, the Federal Reserve System agreed to extend the Federal United States Corporation all the credit money substitute it needed. Like any other debtor, the Federal United States government had to assign collateral and security to their creditors as a condition of the loan. Since the Federal United States didn't have any assets, they assigned the private property of their economic slaves, the U.S. citizens, as collateral against an unpayable federal debt. They also pledged the unincorporated federal territories, national parks, forests, birth certificates, and nonprofit organizations as collateral against the federal debt. All has already been transferred as payment to the international bankers. They own us all. Unwittingly, America has returned to its pre-American Revolution feudal roots, whereby all lands are held by a sovereign, and the common people had no rights to hold allodial title to property. Once again, we the people are tenants and sharecroppers, renting our own property from a sovereign in the guise of the Federal Reserve Bank. We the people have exchanged one master for another. This has been going on for 80 years without the informed knowledge of the American people, without the voice protesting loud enough. Now it's easy to grasp why America is fundamentally bankrupt. Why don't more people own their own properties outright? Why are 90% of Americans mortgaged to the hilt and have little or no assets, and all debts and liabilities have been paid? After all debts and liabilities have been paid, why does it feel like you are working harder and harder and getting less and less? We are reaping what we have sown, and the results of our harvest is a painful bankruptcy and a foreclosure on American property, precious liberties, and a way of life. Few of our elected representatives in Washington, D.C. have dared to tell the truth. The federal United States is bankrupt. Our children will inherit an unpayable debt and the tyranny to enforce paying it. America has become completely bankrupt in world leadership, financial credit, and its reputation for courage, vision, and human rights. This is an undeclared economic war, bankruptcy, and economic slavery of the most corrupt order. We're the surety for the securities. And now here comes the judge, here comes the tax collector. And they're going to get it all. And they want you dead. I mean, I hate to say this, but because when you eliminate the debtor, you eliminate the debt. And they don't care who does it. They'll let China come in and do it. They don't give a shit. Nothing personal, it's just business. But in the meantime, I mean, this could take drawn out for years, hopefully. But you have to learn your remedies. Understand how all this shit works. You're going to be playing catch up if you're not already, a little bit versed in how this Maritime Admiralty works. You're a Maritime Admiralty product under international Maritime Admiralty law. You come out of your mother's water through the birth canal, and you're born on the dock door delivers you. The birth certificate, it's a whole different. Anyway, go to stopthepirates.blogspot.com and check out the information we have there. Thanks. Have a great day. Try to.